Welcome to the 10th and last in a series of interviews with candidates to replace Representative Niki Tsongas in the U.S. House of Representatives. I'm Peggy Wargelin, a member of Concord Citizens Protecting Progress. This interview is for Bopha Malone, and due to a complicated mix of scheduling conflicts, I was unable to be in the studio at the same time she was. So I'm filming the questions separately, and we appreciate her flexibility in being willing to film the answers separately. Let's start with a 2-minute biography. What would you like voters to know about you?
I've been working at Enterprise Bank in the Greater Lowell area for over 10 years. I've been helping families and get into their first home, helping small businesses start up and expand. And in addition to that, I've been serving as a community activist at Lowell General Hospital, Middlesex Community College, my alma mater, Lesley University, Girls Inc., Women Working Wonders, just to name a few. I love making a difference. I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for great people helping me to achieve my American dream. I came here as a refugee with nothing but the clothes on my back, speaking no English at all. And because I know I've been blessed for over 20 years, I've been giving back, and I would love a chance to continue to give back on a broader level. So I'm running to ensure that everyone has the freedom to achieve their American dream the way that I've had. Thank you.
The first group of questions asks about your opinions about the federal government. What types of programs should the federal government be responsible for?
Well, I truly believe that the federal government should be taking care of our people. A nation as wealthy as we are, you know, it's not right that people aren't getting access to good paying jobs, and you know, our students are living with high debts and not being able to afford college if they want to go. You know, our citizens should not be working 2 or 3 jobs just to be able to afford health care. But you know, so in going around the district, I just feel that in hearing everyone, there's a lot that our federal government should be doing and taking care of our people. But at right now, I truly believe that not a lot is getting done. You know, we're so divided, and instead of getting things done, we're more fighting, and you know, there's a lot of career politicians that are there that are not working for ordinary people. It's more about special interests. It's more about who you're connected to. So for example, sitting on the board of Middlesex Community College, Peggy, as I mentioned, I chair actually the Student Experience Committee. And you know, I connect with students, and to hear their stories, to hear that they're working multiple jobs just to be able to go to school. And when they're in school, they're hungry, right? They're fighting over the food pantry. And this happens at Lesley University as well. So it's not just the Greater Lowell community. And you would think it's just Greater Lowell because it's a gateway city, but it's everywhere. And, you know, and in addition to that, they're afraid because of the policies of our government right now with the zero tolerance and DACA. And, you know, people shouldn't be living in fear. And as I mentioned, a country as wealthy as we are, our children should not be going to school hungry. When I came here as a refugee, that's what we experienced. And this is 30 years ago. We've advanced so much that it's not right for our students to be enduring that. And that's just one aspect and one example.
Describe one program run by the federal government you feel is especially successful and effective, and explain why you think that is so.
Well, I mean, it's not perfect. Right now, in terms of the opioid epidemic, I know that you know, the president has allotted some money towards that and going door to door. I know that this issue affects everyone across the board. there hasn't been anyone that I haven't met, right, that hasn't been affected by this, Peggy. And you know, even though it's not enough, what I like is that it's an issue that is out there, and everyone is working together to try to do something about it. And I know that a few months ago, the president did allot some money towards drug and substance and opioid addiction, and that's something that we should be continuing to address. And as I mentioned, it might not be perfect, but at least it's a step forward. And I'm happy and proud that we're listening to each other on that, and we're working towards making sure that we destigmatize this issue, and we give people with substance abuse and people that are working to overcome this the resources that they need in order to get back to a meaningful life.
Great. Now describe a federal program you feel is not successful. What improvements would you suggest?
This is, there's a lot. So, I mean, in terms of one, education, I truly believe that education is key. It's the foundation to overcoming poverty. It's strengthened our economy and also our national security, actually. And I have been very fortunate that I was able to have had a chance to go to Lesley University, graduate from it without a lot of debts that many of our students are facing. And now, you know, our students are facing trillions of dollars of debts, and that's not right. You know, they can't achieve their American dream because they're right now they're being enslaved by all these debts, and they can't move on with their lives. So I really think what we need to do is look into forgiving these debts, allowing them to refinance at a lower rate. You know, and then even in the bankruptcy court, allowing them to discharge this. And looking also, I'm a big proponent of, as I mentioned, sitting on the board of Middlesex Community College and Lesley University. I'm a big proponent of ensuring that if you do want to go to college, college is not for everyone, but if you do want to go, that you're able to at least go to a 2-year community college for free, and going beyond that and making state colleges tuition free as well. A nation as rich as we are, we shouldn't be, you know, our students shouldn't be struggling. And it's a good investment on our part to do that because they are our future. And there are other issues that I truly believe that we can work on and improve on as well, such as healthcare, jobs and infrastructure. But I won't go on too long.
When is it appropriate to make use of private sector resources like outsourcing and public-private partnerships for government functions?
So I think going back to the drug addiction and opioid epidemic, I think you know, we need to look at it in a holistic point of view, right? And in being holistic about this, we all need to partner together. That means public, private, individuals, everyone. We need to come together. And in this case, I know that there are some private facilities that are doing treatments for people with substance abuse, and we do need public funding, and we need to find a way of how we can have a partnership that's meaningful and works for everyone, that supports people in a meaningful way. So that's one example that I think. It's important for private and public to come together.
What federal government programs have you or members of your extended family benefited from?
Many. Many. As I mentioned, Peggy, I came here as a refugee. When we came here, we came here with nothing but the clothes on our backs, speaking no English at all. And you know, when we first came, we settled in Pennsylvania. And we were the only two families that were Cambodian at the time, and we stuck out like sore thumbs. So there weren't a lot of support there, even though we had caring teachers that took the time to help us and get us acclimated. My parents couldn't find jobs, so we moved here to Massachusetts, and we were really lucky that my parents got a chance to meet some Cambodian people that they knew, and they shared some of the resources of what were available to them. And so we benefited from SNAP. If it wasn't for the program, we wouldn't be where we are. We benefited from many nonprofit organizations that my parents were able to go to school and study English a little while we were being taken care of. So there were many, and obviously growing up in terms of healthcare, we had Medicaid and things like that. Even though it wasn't the best care or anything like that, we had something. It was better than what we had before and living in the camps. And we were very blessed to have had that. And because of those programs and resources, and caring people that mentored us and helped us, we achieved our American dream. And that's why I truly believe it's so important. With a lot of blessings, you give back. So in addition to my full-time job at Enterprise Bank, I have been able to give back, not to just the immigrant and the refugee communities in Lowell, but the broader communities. And what's been really nice about it is that in terms of my community activism work, we all come together. It really doesn't matter where you come from, what country you are, or how long you have been here. We know that experience, and we feel it, and we know what it's like to come here with nothing and not understanding, and just doing something so little of guiding them in terms of what the resources that they have that we can. Sometimes it's just about trust. When new people come, they just don't trust the system, and to be able to just share that and saying that these are the things that are available to you, and it's okay to take it, and then you see that makes a big difference when they do take it, and then once they're taught, now it's your turn to give back. You can't just take. You have to give back as well and contribute as well.
The next set of questions is about how you obtain and use information. What is a fact to you, and how are facts important in your decision making?
Oh, it's very, very important, especially, I work at a community, at a bank, and in terms of working at a bank, people trust you, and you're dealing with people's life saving and their hard-earned money. And that's my first and only job. And basically, the core values that we operate on are integrity, honesty, and making sure that you take the time, even though sometimes we want to do things so fast, we want to make decisions faster because we want to give our customer that type of experience of doing things efficiently. If it's, we want to do it efficiently, but more in a way that we make sure that whatever is being done, we do our best that it's done properly, correctly, and the right things. So in terms of answering your question about facts, Peggy, it's very important, when you're dealing with people's lives, when you're dealing with what they're working hard to do. It's so important that you make sure that you have all of your facts straight, that you're speaking the truth. And it's hard nowadays because a lot of the times you don't know what to believe anymore, because in terms of watching the media, what is the truth and what is not. So it's for me, it's always it's even though I might not agree with you, it's always very important for me to talk to you and listen to you and I don't have to believe everything, and I don't have to agree with you. But it's very important that we have that dialogue. And in terms of TV, the same thing. You know, it's not just one source that you're getting from or watching or listening to. It's, you know, make sure you kind of listen to the other side as well. And where do you stand? How do we work? How do we make decisions based on what's best for most people and for everyone? That's one key thing in terms of working with the public and serving others, is that we want to make sure that we have the best information in order for us to meaningfully serve you properly, because it's your life and your livelihood that we're talking about, that that we want to do to help with.
Do you verify information provided to you? How do you decide what sources of information to trust?
Yes. Yes, I always have to verify information. Sometimes you feel like you don't have enough time to verify everything. You know, there's multiple sources that I look at, that I trust, as I mentioned, you know, it all depends on what type of information it is. And I also have a lot of mentors as well that I reach out to listen to and learn from. And it's always good to have a diversity of mentors and people that you can trust and sources that you can trust. So it all depends on what type of information it is and how. Yeah. So in terms of there's in terms of different information, it all depends on the level of information it is, but it's always, my motto is always to verify it and making sure that whatever level and how crucial it is, we reach out and we find ways to look into it before moving forward.
How do you communicate with people who trust different information sources than you do?
You listen to them, and I would, in terms of, as I mentioned, it's always good for others to question you and to have different source than you, because I think when you're working to improve, you're always looking for me personally, I'm always looking for differences, different people to talk to, different ideas, different opinions. So I don't think that that's a bad thing. I actually would welcome that, and I actually would want to work with people that have different ideas. And so how I would communicate that, for me, it's more about trying to learn from you and listen to you and learning where those information that you have come from. And if it's something that we can incorporate together, that we can make it better to serve others better, then let's do it, you know? And if it's not, then, you know, we can agree to disagree. And but it's always important to communicate and listen, and being cordial and respectful about it.
Let's move on to the specific position you are running for. Why do you want to be the U.S. Representative for Massachusetts District 3?
Because, as I mentioned earlier, Peggy, in working at Enterprise Bank for over 10 years and helping the greater Lowell area, especially this community, it's a community of low income people, and in being a community activist there. Obviously, we made great strides, but it's just the more that I'm in this, the more that I realize that ordinary people's voices are not being heard. And because of that, there's a community that's left behind, and they're not being served properly. And even though I've never lived a politician's life and I never thought about running, because as I mentioned, coming here as a refugee, my parents experienced the Khmer Rouge regime. They know what it's like if you speak up. They see that when you speak up against the government, you speak up against anything. You know, they witnessed their families and friends being slaughtered and murdered. And growing up, I was always told, work hard, study hard, keep your head down. Don't speak up, don't speak against the government or anything. So for me, I've always, you know, I've enjoyed giving back, and I never thought of, you know, I had a good, I love my job at the bank, and the bank has been good to me. But it's just in doing this for many years, my community activism work, and knowing that, you know, I've worked hand in hand with these people. I understand what it's like to be them, and you know, and I know that they don't have a voice. And Congress right now, it's, as I mentioned earlier as well, it's there's not much diversity there. You know, if you look at it in many, many ways, it's not diversity. You have, you know, less than 20% of women, and then also. There's a lot of elites and career politicians and establishment there. You need more normal people. I mean, I don't know about you. I don't have friends with millions of dollars, you know, and that's where, and that's not who I've been working with either. And that's where you know, and I'm not saying that that's wrong either. But what I'm saying is that we need more diversity in Congress, because that's what our world is right now. And we need to reflect that if we want to serve people better. And I truly believe that I'm a perfect candidate and a strong candidate for that, due to my life experience and the perspectives that I have. You don't have to tell me what it's like to come here and not have anything, or not to be able to speak English, or how, you know, when you walk into every room, you have to fight to truly, you know, show that you are smart enough to be there, and to overcome poverty as well, and to have made it, but to have made it within a system. And that's where I truly believe that I could, you know, be very helpful. I'm also a mother, and I'm also, you know, and as I mentioned, a career person and an activist, and not having any ties to any of the special interests. So my ties have always been with people, and that's why I'm running, and that's why I truly believe that we need more voices there to advocate for.
How long have you lived in the district?
So I have worked within the district for over 10 years. I live in Bedford. And Bedford is a mile outside of Carlisle, and that's not in the district. It used to be in the district, but it got changed because of the changing. And but you know what? It's not the rules is that obviously you don't have to live in it. And the thing is, your issues a mile away. I do understand. You know, it's not like I haven't worked. I've been working in the community for over 10 years. It's not like all of a sudden I just said, you know, I want to run, and this is the district I want to run in. It's not like that. It's more, I have deep ties. I understand the people, and I'm doing this not because I need a job or want a job or anything. It's more because this is what is needed right now with everything that's going on with immigration and, you know, families being torn apart. I never imagined, I never thought that the things that we were going through 30 years ago, that this would be very prevalent now, right? And the things that are going on now, I truly believe that whether you're in the district or not, if you have been working there, and if you have been serving, and if you truly believe that there's a need, then why not? You know, and this is my passion. My passion is to give back, and I would love, I truly believe that I'm the best person that could help shape laws and policies that would fit people, as opposed to making people change in order to fit the laws and policies that have been outdated. So, so whether, and I would be willing to move into the district, you know, when elected. It's just with 2 kids, 8 and a 5, and never thought of you know, if we knew that I was going to run, I would have moved into the district or moved into Carlisle. But you know, I wouldn't just move in just to run either, because we have 2 kids that are in school. And if you have, I don't know if you have kids or if you Peggy, but it's hard. It's hard to uproot your family to go into another town when they're all acclimated already.
This is a very diverse district. How do you plan to represent the interests of people with such varying concerns and views of what government can and should do?
And that's why I truly believe that I'm a great candidate in this district. And as I mentioned before to you, is that, in terms of my walks of life and my work with for over 10 years at Enterprise Bank in my community work, and I'm a Rotarian, which is in the district as well, and we all work together in the district that I'm in for Rotarian. It's within our district. So for me, in terms of how to serve them, the best way to serve them is to listen to them, and making sure you take the time to be involved with them, which I've been doing. So for over 10 years, what if you look at my background, you'll see a consistency of being involved in all of the any nonprofits, any sort of community work. I've been involved, and that's where it's truly important, because when people need something, you know exactly what they're talking about, right? Because you have not been out of touch. You've been there. and the thing is, you know the resources that are available to them. You might not even have to create it. They actually just might not know that that's available. But because I've been there and I've been working with all of these programs already, it's like, okay, and that's actually has been happening, that I love in terms of going around the district, going door to door and talking to people. When people are like, I need help with housing and family care, it's like, oh, do you know that there's a program here that actually serves your community as well? And they just don't know that. And when you connect them, that's where, so it might not even be a lot of work, and you might not even have to create a program. It's just you knowing that there are resources to connect them to. And that's where I think it's important as a representative that you never lose touch of who you're serving and where they are. And that's what I have been doing for many years, is being grounded and rooted and making sure that, with all of the opportunities and the great blessings that I have, that I never lose touch of that, and I stay and make sure that others get to have that chance as well. And getting chances is just about people knowing that they have resources and where they can go for help.
What concerns do you hear from voters most often? What are the issues you are most concerned about personally? So in terms of voters, it's very different, as you know, because the district is diverse and wide, and you have pockets in different areas where immigration might be top for them, and then you have suburban area where climate change is very important, and then you have areas where they need jobs, and it's harder for transportation and things like that. So in terms of voters' issue, it's one thing that I love, though, because initially, before doing this, you feel hopeless, and you feel like, oh my gosh, we're so divided. But it's like when I'm out there and I'm talking to voters and people, we're more similar than we're divided, and we're actually, a lot of us are motivated, and we all want to make, so which makes me more hopeful, and I'm very happy to see. And but in terms of the issues, it's very, if I was to name top 3, it would be immigration, climate change, and the opioid epidemic. Personally, and obviously I hear other issues as well, but personally, as I mentioned to you earlier, I'm a firm believer that education is key, right? And if you can care for a child right from birth and help them to have a meaningful life and educate them, our future will be stronger and better.
And I've experienced that for myself. I didn't have an education when I was at birth. Unlike my kids and a lot of people here, my childhood was more about war and hearing bomb fires and gunfires instead of hearing lullabies and reading and things like that. But if you look at it, even though I came here at 9, and then that's when I got educated, and even with living with trauma and being raised by parents with trauma, but getting care does make a difference, and getting support and social programs really makes a difference, right? Where imagine if you can help kids right from the start, how meaningful that could be and how better that could be. And so personally, education is, I think it's truly important, and we really need to invest in our future and our kids. Healthcare, it's, as I mentioned before, I don't think where we are and how wealthy we are as a country and as a nation that we're leaving people behind. Some people have to go bankrupt just due to unforeseen illnesses, or being enslaved to their sickness and not being able to afford medicine and drugs to take care of themselves. And so healthcare is a major issue as well, and I would like to see us moving towards a Medicare for all system, just because I feel, as a board member of Lowell General Hospital, I see that, the system that we have now, it's way too complex. It's too complex for even the smartest people, like our doctors and our, but imagine a community that doesn't even understand any or don't even trust it, So I think if we go to a Medicare for all system, it would benefit all of us, and it would be better. And I truly believe that climate change is personally an issue, and as well, because and I actually before running, I actually didn't feel this way, but as I'm running and talking to more people, they have convinced me that this is top priority. Because when you look at it and when you think about it, if our climate and our planet isn't doing well, none of these issues matter, and we won't be well, right? We can't. We're not going to have education, and we won't even need to talk about healthcare because of the fact that we're, our first priority should make sure that our planet is well, that we can continue to live in a healthy and safe environment, and making sure that our air is clean. So it's important that we leave our future and our planet better than how we found it for our kids.
Great. Please tell us about how you are financing your campaign. What are your criteria for accepting or rejecting donations?
So right now, I've raised the least amount, and I'm very proud. It's something that I'm very proud of because of the fact that to be able to prove that, coming this far and raising the least amount, that's, that shows that in terms of money in politics, it's, we need to change that, because if someone that's raising very low can really, but it's more hard work. You know what I mean? And that's where it needs to go back to, of the values of hard work and connecting with people. And so in terms of how I'm raising my money, it's all, comes from different pockets, family, a little of our own money, but also friends in the community, and people that I've been working with for over 10 years. And it's not a lot of money, but these are, and 80% of what we raised are in the district. And as I mentioned, it's not a lot of money, Peggy, but it's a lot of support. and it shows that people are excited and they believe in our message, and they want that representation. And in terms of money that I won't accept, obviously I would not accept from the NRA or special interest in that way. And then I wouldn't accept money knowingly. Climate change, as I mentioned, is one that I care very much about. Any organizations or companies that deal with oil and coal industry, fossil fuel industry, and that. We really need to move towards my personal belief is, and when in Congress, I would work on this as well, working towards to a public finance campaign, because that's where I think you would, instead of having walls, right? Because right now it's like, you could be a smart person and have the ability to be there, but because you can't raise the money, it shows, basically you're judged upon your wealth and your money, and that's not right. Because for me, I've always grown up to believe that money doesn't matter. As long as, we work hard and we do what's right, that's what's important. And so that's where I would like to see us move towards, in a way of, if you have people that are working hard, they truly care about their communities and they've done it, and they want to be involved, we should help them to get involved, not build walls. And then, so in this case, it's like, when you have that type of rules or have to raise that type of money, voices are not being heard, because you have communities that first, they might have the money to donate to you, but they don't even know the system, right? And they're afraid to do that. So I work in a community, as I mentioned, in the Greater Lowell area. You have people that they could give, but it's just they're afraid to be involved in politics. They came from places where, being involved in politics get them killed. So you know what? When you're asking them for money and they support you, but they're not going to give. And that's where, and if that's who you've been working with, then that's why you're not raising enough to be like everyone else. But there's so many reasons why I think we should change our campaign finance system right now. And first thing I would do would be to overturn Citizens United and making sure that we go into public finance. Because then you have more qualified people that could be doing it, do it.
National politics is increasingly marked by rancor and division, and dealing with this will be a large part of the job. Describe a past situation where you had to work to get something done with a group of people who strongly disagreed with your position.
There have been many. So in terms of my career and my community work, there's been many instances, but an example in terms of my career, as I mentioned, I work in the Greater Lowell area, and the population that I work with are underserved community that might not have or might not be educated about the banking system. So a lot of it has to be about education, right? And then also advocating for them. And, you have, but also in the banking world, you have regulations, you have, policies that you follow. And so an example of that would be, and there's been many instances like that where when someone is looking to do a business loan or a home loan or things like that, and they don't understand the process. They're not reading or they're not translating those questions correctly, and they're filling it out wrong. And then you have people, our lenders, that to no fault of their own, they're looking at these paperwork and it doesn't match up. And then so obviously they're being declined. And then so one of the things is sometimes we, in that case, it's tough because if you're a lower ranking officer, it's trying to get your bosses and everyone who's higher than you to kind of relook at this. And with time it's like you might be afraid because of the politics in the business, but at the same time, what's really nice about where I've been working is that we have this, we make it easy for people to get together and chat and review things like this. So in this case, one example would be always, because I know in my job, a lot of times knowing that most of these people don't even come to the bank. They're afraid to even enter the bank. Most of the time, I go to their business. I sit there and I help them fill out the application. So I know when they're filling out something, I know that looks wrong. Because if you're saying you made that much money, right? And your business has been in business for 10 years, and I'm sitting here seeing people coming in and out, that's not what you're making. That's wrong. Something is wrong because you wouldn't be doing this for 10 years. And then in talking and translating this, they're like, oh, we thought that meant this way. I'm like, no, it's wrong. But then going back and saying, we need to relook at this. We need to make sure that these. I'm sorry that I'm giving you a longer than example, but it's always that has always been something that I'm used to, and making sure that even though we have different opinions and different ways of doing things, and coming at it from a different perspective and sharing with them that these are they can't come to the bank not because they're lazy people or they don't want your help or anything like that. It's more because they're scared. And imagine you not knowing or understanding something and then having to walk into a place where you don't know, and people might not look like you or speak, but in this case it might not be the case. Or if you're running a mom and pop shop, you're everything to your business. So it's not that they don't care to go in. It's more just because having a different attitude and saying, when we are serving them, it might not be that they are coming to us to get the service. It might be that we need to deliver the service to them, and how do we make it easier for them? And so that's what I've been used to and doing, and changing in a way where my job might be, okay, you have to be here or whatever, but making sure that everyone understands that I can't be here. I have to be there. If we want to serve them better, I have to be there, not here, and so that's one example. But, in terms of community, same thing. It's like, when you're working with people, not everyone will agree with you. And when you're making decisions, an example of this would be the Cambodian Mutual Assistance Association. It was about to fail. We had it coming from different angles, but we knew we actually, my board and I at the time, we got the community together, and we asked them, do you want to see this organization survive, or should we just dissolve it, or should we just let it go? The community felt that it was important that they still needed the service for our elders, and the younger people needed to have education about their culture and as well. And then we needed to stay open to help other immigrants and other refugees. So in that case, even though we had different ideas, we all came together, and we worked through it together. And some of us might not be happy of how we went about doing things. We needed to make decisions that were tough. We needed to make cuts that people didn't like. But we knew that the end goal was that this organization needed to be alive. And we needed to make sure we came back to our core and make that happen first, and then once we survive and we're prospering, that's where then we can go back. And people might not agree, but we had to communicate that and say, just this is the reasons why, but you might not understand it, but we have to do it. And it's a tough decision to make, but it's the right thing to do because that's what people wanted.
Great. Okay.
What is your philosophy on legislative compromise?
I always think when it's, as long as it's good for people and it's benefiting most for everyone, it's always good to compromise. In life, you can't have everything. In everything that I do, you can't, it's always better to, if we can move a step forward in making things better, and if we can compromise something, then it's always good. But there are certain things of, so for example, the border wall, the walls, and tying it to lives of children. That's something that I wouldn't want to compromise, because coming here, as I mentioned in my background as a refugee, and I just can't imagine having my life being tied to a wall that there's a lot of things that we can compromise on, and there's a lot of things. I'm all for border protection, and we have we have great technology that are very advanced now, that we could we should do all that we can to protect our national border. But let's do it in a humane way, and let's treat people's lives, as human beings, and not something that we bargain with and that we just throw around, and that's not what we want to send the message to any children or anyone, that your lives are less than mine, because it's, it's because that's not right. So anything that to be clear, anything that that we can do to make sure that we improve people's lives, and I truly believe that that's what we should do. We need, and that's what we have to do. We need to come together. We need to talk to each other. We need to compromise. We need to think. I think decisions should be made thinking about people that need it the most, not based on what we need.
Finally, let's touch quickly on some other issues important to our members. Please give a quick response to each issue.
A woman's right to choose.
Yes. Hi.
Healthcare.
For all.
Civil rights.
Yes.
Net neutrality.
Yes.
Gun regulations.
Yes. Strong ones. Common sense.
The latest round of tax cuts.
No.
Government policy for the situation in Puerto Rico.
We need to, yes, we need to, yes.
You can, if you need to.
I need to, yes. They need help. We are very lucky to have what we have, and when others need help, we need to reach out, and we need to do better in treating people humanely, and making sure they are going through tough situations already. We don't need to make it any worse. Yes.
Immigration policy.
It's very complex. We need to come together and we need to work together. We have great laws that we all need to follow, and we need to follow and do it in a humane way. It's not black and white. It's very tough because, as I mentioned, I came here as a refugee, and I know what it's like. My family didn't just say one day, you know what, we're bored. We're gonna risk our lives and through the jungle and risk landmines and everything just because they experienced trauma, and we needed to, our lives were at stake, and for people to do that, they must be in desperate situation. And we need to ensure there are others that are not, and that's where we really need to look at it in a humane way and trying and however we do it, we need to do it in a respectful and not, we don't need any more division. We don't need to create future, as I mentioned, coming here, for me, how we came, how my mom brought me here, we've experienced growing up, there were a lot of traumas, a lot of issues on us already, but I can't imagine being torn apart by my parents. Experience what we experience already, but being torn apart. And as a mother myself, I can't imagine someone taking my child away for however many hours. It's just not right. It's not right to treat people like that.
Campaign finance reform.
Yes, we need to reform, yes. Yes, we need to take money out of politics. We need to, as I mentioned earlier, go to public financing. It's been done in other states. However it is, we need to have more voices and we need to be more inclusive. Things are, I truly believe that's the root of a lot of evil, because it's more about money and power. It's not about the voices that need it the most, or it's a pay-to-play program. That's what it is. And when you create that, it's like, many, and it's our future, it's not gonna be good. And so yes, it needs to be changed.
Once again, this has been the 10th and final in a series of interviews with candidates to replace Representative Niki Tsongas in the U.S. House of Representatives. Thank you again to Bopha Malone for being willing to be interviewed without my being present, and for her flexibility in dealing with our schedule conflict. I'm Peggy Wargelin of Concord Citizens for Protecting Progress. Thank you.